Welcome to the OCR Reports presentation of DEKA FIT Northeast. This is race 6 of 7 in the 2023 Elite Series. I am Xander Keene, joined by Luke Halterman. And Luke, we've seen a couple of these races over the last few months, but I'm really excited for this one. We've got the most stacked fields of the year so far on both the men's and women's sides, which should set us up for an awesome morning of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. With only 2 races left in the series, you know now that all the alphas are going to be coming out and scratching their way to try to qualify for the World Championships this December in Dallas, Texas. This is going to be the, if not the biggest race of DEKA FIT all time.
Yeah, this is easily the most loaded we've seen both start lines since World Championships last year, possibly even kind of more stacked than that just because of the number of athletes. And you've got an interesting combination of, some athletes who have been on the series so far this year, putting in solid times, looking to solidify their position. You've got competitors from last year's World Championship making their season debut. And then, especially on the women's side, you've got athletes who haven't done a DEKA FIT yet, but we expect to be right there at the top. So there's a little bit of everything as all of these competitors look to secure their spot in the top 20 ahead of championship season in Dallas the first weekend of December.
And you got that right, Xander. And the coolest thing about it is that, like you mentioned, on the women's side in particular, there's about 14, maybe 15 women that I can argue that will qualify for the top 20 in the World Championships for this December. That's insane. For that to just be one race in particular, we could be seeing the World Championship competitors today, every single one of them. So today, everyone's going to be bringing in their best. Even for the men, I have a very bold prediction. I believe there are about 4 men on that side who can go sub 30 today, given the competition and given the fact that we need to qualify for the World Championships. Of course, it's all grind and teeth out here today, and this is going to be some big moves.
Yeah, you mentioned that on the men's side. There's only been 4 men to ever go under 30 minutes in the history of DEKA FIT. 2 of those 4 are in the field today, in Rich Ryan and David Magida. But you've got Nick Riker, who's in the top 5 this season so far. Dylan Scott, who hasn't put a time down yet this year, but we expect to be up there, and some other competitive men as well. And then, of course, on the women's side, you have Alondra Greenlee, who was second in all 3 events last year. You've got Vivian Tafuto, who's in the top 10 of times last year. And then a couple of big debuts, Carly Wopat, DEKA Strong World Record holder, and then Meg Jacoby, DEKA Mile World Record holder, High Rocks World Record holder. And if you're the world record holder in about a 18-minute event and an almost hour-long event, you should be able to succeed in a 30-something minute event. So I'm really excited to see what Meg can throw down here in her DEKA FIT debut.
Absolutely. Yeah, DEKA Mile even translated into a 5K, even though it's just a step bit more on as far as the mileage and stuff. As far as her fitness level is concerned, even with Carla Wopat as well, it should translate just fine in the DEKA arena as well. So I expect those 2 world record holders to make a name for themselves today in the DEKA FIT arena.
And we've got a few other competitors from last year's DEKA FIT World Championship as well. How could you not acknowledge Chris Roglowski, who is willing to throw herself into any event and succeed? She had a top 10 performance in DEKA FIT World Championship last year. That was right after becoming the first woman to ever go 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. So she can recover and compete in just about any event. You've got Laura Cummings, Lori Winkleman, Michelle Navarro, who have all put solid times down so far this year as we're getting our first look inside the DEKA FIT arena. There's Rich Ryan, your 2022 DEKA FIT World Champion, has not stepped on a DEKA FIT course at least yet this year. Kind of has bided his time since High Rock season, gotten back to training, and you'd expect Rich to come out and make a statement. Maybe he's going to hold some things back to his chest, going into World Championship, but definitely, on a mission to be one and done in terms of qualifying this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know Rich's stance as far as if he plans on making the 7th race out of the series in Orlando or not, but I feel like Rich, and like you said, making a one and done, he's going to make his time today. He's going to solidify it, hoping that he can only have to travel one time before the World Championships, of course. I have a feeling he's going to go low 29 today.
And so if you're new to DEKA FIT, Good morning. Thank you for joining us here in an early morning, whatever time zone you're at. But just to recap what we've got here. So it's 5,000 meters of running broken up into 10 500-meter bouts. And then after each run, you've got a station. So it goes from weighted alternating reverse lunges to then 500 meters on the rower. We've got box step over or jump overs, med ball sit-ups, ski erg, farmer's carry. The air bike is zone 7. That can sometimes be the crux of the race, especially, in that sort of 2 to 4 range. We've seen a lot last year where in a lot of these races, maybe not the case today with the depth of field, but we've seen a lot of times the race winner kind of breaks away, but then spots are decided in that second pack with podium positions on the line at the bike. And then the last 3 stations, dead ball wallovers, tank push and pulls, and then weighted burpees. So the thing with DEKA FIT, especially at this level, is none of the stations individually are that taxing except for maybe the bike, depending on how hard you go. But it's that accumulation of all this different effort in such a short period of time that really puts a lot of strain on these athletes.
Yeah, it's a full-on anaerobic exercise, or workout, I should say. There is no just let's lay back and talk amongst ourselves as we're racing and stuff. It is full on 180 beats per minute, if not more, full on grinding teeth and going hard. And that lactic acid buildup in your legs straight from the get-go, even from the lunges straight into the rower, then the box overs. Your legs are taxed and you got to give it everything you got. So this is not just your casual walk in the park type race at all.
And you can see, as we're getting a look here inside the arena with our great camera crew, you have to do a few different things to get ready. You've got to get your aerobic warm up in, but you've got to touch the stations and see what you want to do. You see Chris Rogoski there kind of easily pedaling on the bike. Some other athletes were running around the course. You see some with Rich Ryan, I think that is in the corner with the burpee. It's not like you're warming up for a 5K, a 10K, or even a Spartan race where pretty much all of your effort is going to be, aerobic movement. Here, you've got to get ready for everything because, less than 2 minutes into this race, you've got to drop down and do 30 reverse lunges and get right back to running. So your body's got to be ready to do a little bit of everything here.
Absolutely. So this type of race, they always say, in the first mile, you can never win it, but you could most certainly lose it, right? But I feel like DEKA FIT in this case, and I think we've seen it a lot, people tend to take it out hot right from the get-go in that first 500. I believe in that last race we saw that new kid, I forget his name already, I apologize, but he took it out hot. Clearly a very good runner, but then Colin Stifer came back and took over as well. But then you see people like Lauren Weeks and Nicole Miracle who take it out hot and they sustain it the whole time. If you've been training for this and you could take it out hot and secure your spot right in the first 3 stations, that's where I believe the race really starts happening, is right after the box overs. I think you start seeing a little bit more of the podium contenders and a little bit more of maybe the 4 through 8 starts drifting just a bit. If they can make it up around the setups in the ski erg, then they can do that. However, those first 3 stations, you really got to push through and dig deep and maintain those leads as well.
And especially now that we're a couple of years into DEKA FIT, right, where almost all of the athletes who we expect to be, competitors come World Championship season, they've done this before. They've put themselves through this event, in most cases, several times. And so you sort of have a sense of how it's going to feel. The thing about this race is that what you have to do is the exact same every time. Now, maybe there's a slight difference in the run course, but that's really not the case with DEKA either. The setup is almost always the exact same. And so, you can really measure your effort. But with that said, what you can't control is the other competitors around you. And in a race like this, you mentioned 4 men possibly having the potential to go sub 30. This is a case where there's enough guys out there where they may pull each other to fast times if they want to. Whereas earlier this season, we've seen cases where, whether it was a VJ Jones or a Tara Jackson running away from the field, and there's not really anyone to push them in the back half of the race. Today, we'll see how this goes, but there's a much higher chance of, 2, 3, maybe even 4 athletes being there, in the second half of the race and ready to get after it. So I'm excited to see what that's going to do to the competition, because it's a bit of a different flavor from what we've had for most of the season so far.
Absolutely. Yeah. Competition brings out the best in you, right? And if you're racing amongst some of the best in the world, which they are today, you're going to see some fast times dropped, and you're going to see you get being pushed right next to the tank. In other words, you're not going to have like in a case of VJ where he was on the tank and he knew he was going to try to break 30 minutes, so right around that time roughly, but he had no one really to push him. Today, that's going to be a different story. Everyone's going to have someone next to them at a given point. Each race today will come down to the burpees. Patnick, guarantee it. It's going to happen today. And it's going to come down to the last few seconds. That's how close of a race for both men and women this is going to be.
So to give you a sense of what we're looking at here, again, top 20 are automatic qualifiers for DEKA FIT World Championship. That's a change from last year where it was the top 12. So this gives more athletes an opportunity to qualify and compete. As you see, Yancey, the man behind the madness here at DEKA FIT, giving some last-minute instructions to some of our male competitors. But for this men's race to start off the day, right now the time is 32:45, but there's a giant asterisk there because there are several men in this field today who, barring something completely unexpected happening, are going to go way under that number. So you've got to really be looking at, low 32s, maybe even sub 32 to get into that top 20, knowing that there's going to be another competitive race in Orlando in a couple of weeks. So what's interesting is you've got a few guys in this field today that are sort of in the back half of the top 10 in Joseph Cotto and Mark Polzin, who you would think are solidly in the top 20, but with their times around 31, 33, and 32 flat, you never know. And so I think maybe they're hoping that there's not as much of a chance of them winning today's race, given some of the other guys in the field, but I think they're out here looking to improve their time, solidify their position, and make sure that they don't get caught, at the back end or even out of the top 20 once all the times are in.
Yeah, and this is what is exciting about those type of athletes as well too, right? They're amazing athletes. They've already, like you mentioned, Mark and Joseph Cotto, they've already been on the podium, in fact, in the last couple of races, right? So when they're on a little bit more of a higher standard with a little bit more of the world talent elite, this is really going to solidify, do I push a little bit harder? Do they bring a little bit better out of me? This is going to be a true testament to their fitness as well too today.
So it looks like they're bringing that first wave of men over to the start line, so we should get our call-ups here momentarily. Your top seed in terms of times this year in the field today is Nick Riker with a 30:32, and of course Rich Ryan and David Makita, who are two of the four guys to go sub 30, are making their season debut effectively here for DEKA FIT today. So it's a very, very exciting field on the men's side. We'll have a lot of time to talk about the women's field, after this men's race. But again, as we talked about in the open, both of these races should be absolutely electric given the quality of athlete we have here today. Do you want to see more DEKA and OCR races live streamed this year? Support the sport and become an OCR Report member today for less than $5 a month. You can help us live stream races like this every single week. Find a link in our YouTube show notes and more information on our Instagram page at the OCR Report. Become a member today. We're just a few minutes away as some athletes continue their warm-up, and this is an interesting situation where you've got so many competitors in these elite fields that it's going to be broken up into multiple heats. And I think that our man Jack Bauer, who did a great job of collecting information to make us sound smart about all these athletes, he kind of has a hand in helping decide who's in that top wave. And you never know what could happen, I guess, in wave 2, but we'd expect that these first waves for both the men and women to contain the podium finishers and the top times. But this is, again, just to reiterate how competitive this is, that everyone in this first wave absolutely belongs there, and it's going to be exciting to see what they can do.
Yeah, you can argue the case for maybe the whole second wave of men and women today as well too, that they also belong in the first wave. If it wasn't only limited to just 12 people in each wave, we would send them all in a mass, and it would be awesome to watch. So in other words, the men in this first heat, if you're on the back end of it, say podium's out of reach and, maybe you're getting a little discouraged and stuff, still run hard to qualify because those men in that second heat are going to be itching to get into the world qualifications, right? So you can't just let off the gas just only because maybe, let's say, podium is out of contention. You got to think about your overall time because that's what matters at the end of the day.
So the American flag is out. Looks like we've got the national anthem here coming up. Not sure if we're going to be able to hear that, but we're just a few minutes away. Gotcha. So we're just a couple of minutes away as, again, the warm-ups are complete and the national anthem going right now. So as soon as that finishes up, we should have our first wave athlete callouts, and we'll get a look at our competitors here in this male heat. Again, the highlights of this field: Rich Ryan, last year's 2022 DEKA FIT World Champion, a guy who ran a really smart race and kind of came back and made his move in the second half of the race as Ryan Kent and Rylan Shadegg went toe-to-toe to start with. You've got David Magida, who, again, a 29:47 PR making his season debut. Nick Riker, who is right now fourth in the world in DEKA FIT this year. You've got Dylan Scott, Joseph Cotto, Mark Polzine, and then a couple of athletes sort of in the back half of that, top 10 seeds, if you will, who are making their DEKA FIT debuts. Isaac Sanderson, Jarrett Newby, Jack Driscoll. These guys have competed in other events throughout the course of the year. Jack Driscoll just won Rally in the Valley. Jarrett Newby is a guy that throws himself into a little bit of everything too. Interesting to see what those guys can do. Maybe they don't necessarily have the running pedigree on the level of a David Magida or a Rich Ryan, but they're in this field. They're going to be getting after it. And again, they're no strangers to competition. They've competed probably more than some of these other athletes this year, just not necessarily in DEKA FIT. So it should be very exciting to see what some of these debuts look like.
I'm excited for these dark horses, as you could say, in DEKA FIT. Now, Jared Newby is no dark horse when it comes to hybrid racing or anything like that. But, man, I'm excited for Newby. I competed against him at Grit Games, and he is in phenomenal shape right now. I'm going to say that he does, in fact, podium today. That's how bold I am on that prediction with Jared Newby. And, in fact, I think he goes sub 30 as well, too. Now, I could be reaching for that since I've never seen him on the DEKA FIT arena, but Newby, he brings something out of him, man, and I really believe in him today. So this is going to be exciting. And then Jack Driscoll, like you just mentioned, he's now stepping into the hybrid scene. He's a new guy when it comes to this. He just won Rally in the Valley. He competed in Battle Bunker as well, too. He's making a name for himself. Well, Johnny Mares, let's go, buddy.
So we've got our call-outs starting. I see Max Fallon, Brian Neely, and now Johnny Mares out there. We've got a few other men coming up. That's Jack Driscoll in the red shorts. Again, no DEKA FIT times on the board, but just won an event that had a little bit of everything in Rally in the Valley.
He's a strong guy. So this will be interesting to see how his cardio is more on the anaerobic side of everything.
There's Jarrett Newby, second place at Grit Games a couple of weeks ago. We'll see a lot of other Grit Games competitors here in this field. Isaac Sanderson wearing a heart rate monitor, so yeah. I'd have to imagine he's got a race plan.
Yeah, that's right. He's a runner. You could tell. All right, Mark. Yeah. Mark is a veteran at DEKA FIT, so best believe that he's going to bring the best out of every competitor next to him. And we all know how fast Joseph is, so he's going to be running some fast 5K splits.
Dylan Scott, top 10 in multiple events at last year's World Championship, a guy that's been in the High Rocks Elite 15 a couple of times as well. And then we see Nick Riker coming out, top time in this field so far this year.
Let's go, Nick. All right, David Magida, this is your time to shine, my man. Let's see if you can hang with Rich Ryan. Let's do it. These two are going to be fighting it all the way to the burpees.
I think you're good. Did you get on?
And then Rich Ryan will presumably be the last call out. You can see him right in the back middle there.
Man, this is such a stacked
Make sure
heat.
you
This is crazy. You would think this is the World Championships. I mean, every single gentleman in that Heat 1 is just phenomenal athletes on a world-class level, every single one of them.
And there's Rich Ryan, reigning
I
DEKA FIT
told you
World
that he's like
Champion.
using my camera.
He's on the leaderboard in both mile and strong so far this year.
Good
You see
day,
there,
first
one of
day.
3 guys
Look
to
at
go
that.
sub
Yeah.
29 in DEKA FIT, along with Rylan Shadig and Ryan Kent. So we're just seconds away from getting this DEKA FIT underway. It's going to be a 500-meter run, and we'll see what the positioning looks like, as these guys will probably take it out really hot.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right, Xander, who you got? What's your podium prediction?
I think Rich is going to take it. I think David McGee is going to be up there. And I like Nick Riker to make a statement and say, hey, you know what? My 5th place right now is not an accident. I'm experienced. I've had a great season so far, ready to get after it. But you never know. I know you've got Jerry Newby on the podium, so we'll see how it goes.
I hate undermining Nick Riker. I love Nick Riker to death. But man, I just seeing his fitness level in person at Grit Games just makes me believe in him a little bit. But, you know, like I've always said, experience kind of takes over a little bit too. But Nick Riker and Newby will be fighting for that 3rd spot. I got Rich Ryan winning, Magida 2nd, and then Newby and Riker fighting for that 3rd spot.
So we're underway, and this field is pretty packed up. I think that's Max Fennell, who was at the very front to start, and now Rich Ryan has sort of eased his way into 1st place, with Fennell in 2nd and then Dylan Scott in 3rd place.
Now, Max did this in the last race, if you remember. He took it out hot, and he was competing, I believe, with VJ. And he held on to VJ for quite some time until, obviously, VJ took over a little bit. So Max is notorious for this as well, too, of taking it out a little bit hot. Now, since this last race, I have no idea how his training has been. Has he been practicing and maintaining it as well? This will be interesting to see because he's a world-class triathlete.
Yeah, no questions about the aerobic capacity for Max, given that triathlon background, especially for an event this short. But yeah, the question becomes what happens once we get into the stations and he becomes more compromised. So now Dylan Scott has passed Rich Ryan, but this is quite a pack. Definitely the closest we've seen the entire field, you know, through this first run at any point this season, which again speaks to the quality of competitors here, as they're going to make their way here momentarily into the weighted reverse lunges for station 1.
Yeah, Dylan Scott's another guy who can very well be on the podium today, and not just 3rd place type podium, very well 2nd or first. You know, Dylan Scott's been in this game before. He's ran DEKA FIT before. He's a great hybrid athlete. The guy has an engine on him like no other. In fact, he could probably do 10 rounds of this before he even breaks a sweat. So Dylan Scott very well could be on the podium today. He seems like he wants to take it out hot. He has a strategy behind it. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Basically the entire field together on these weighted reverse lunges. So we'll see who comes out first. And I think that was Rich Ryan very briefly. Yep, there he is. So Rich made a bit of a move there. He came in 2nd or 3rd and has now started to open it up a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like Newby was going a little slow on those lunges. So again, the inexperience may overtake his ability to possibly podium today as well too. As you can see, every single competitor out there who has done a DEKA FIT is right in there. But that looks like, I believe, Isaac Sanderson, which I don't think he's done a DEKA FIT. So his training must be paying off as well too.
Yeah, no, Isaac's been working with Rylan Shadig a lot, and you see him there in the red shorts, kind of on the very edge of the screen in 3rd place. And Max Fennell in 2nd. Rich Ryan on a mission today. There's no waiting back for the second half of the race, at least in this one. I think Rich is out to make a statement.
No. I think he wants to put this away early. I think he wants everybody to chase him and blow up in the process. And like I said, Rich is going low 29, high 28s today for sure.
There's David Magida kind of in the back half of the field to start. He may be someone that's going to ease into this race a little bit more. We'll see what he has later on. But again, Rich, last year's world champion, is certainly making a statement here on this 2nd run as he'll get set to come into station number 2 here momentarily.
Yeah, David Magida, he plays the long game, of course. I remember watching him in a lot of High Rocks races. You know, he doesn't take it out super hot, and then there he is on the backstretch. It's how he won the North American Championships in Chicago with High Rocks. But I don't know if that strategy pays off in a DEKA FIT arena, given how fast each station is and how anaerobic everything is as well too. It's shorter runs. If you play it off too safe, I think you might lose the spots on the podium as well. So hopefully he doesn't play it off too slow, and maybe he speeds it up here after the rower as well too.
Yeah, it's shorter runs and essentially about half the duration, more or less. And so, yeah, if you let it wait, there's not quite as much time to break it up. So here we go. We've got our field on the rower. This is 500 meters, so somewhere in the high 130s to low 140s you would expect from these guys. See Rich Ryan coming in first place, has the prime position because he's right next to the exit when he gets done. So yeah, you see Rich right there rowing 138.
Wow. Solid. That's a great pace. That's an awesome pace.
Dylan Scott pretty close. Max, it looks like, is in the high 140s.
Yeah, all these guys will go sub 2. Even let's just say the slowest person in this heat will all still honestly be right around 150, maybe 152, maybe at the most. So these guys they're hauling, and these. It looks like every single one of them has been on a rower before. Forms look phenomenal. They're looking calm and collected. They know it's only station 2 out of 10, so they don't want to necessarily blow themselves up. But also, too, this is a great way to recover if you, in fact, messed up on that first run or on the first station as well.
Yeah, you got a quick look there at David McGee's screen. He's at 142 as well. So certainly, right there, fairly close to the fastest pace in terms of Rich Ryan. In a field like this, there's not going to be a ton of separation necessarily on these early stations. It's more the accumulation of effort and being consistent on each one to then try and make your move later on, when we get closer to the air bike.
Yeah, it's still going to stay close, even after the rower as well, too. You're going to see a little bit packed, as you just saw Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott take out. There's Nick Riker. Oh, I'm sorry, Isaac Sanderson. I'm sorry, I got the
Yeah, looks like we've got Rich, Isaac, Dylan, and then Nick.
Wow.
So your top 4 have kind of started to string this race out a little bit, only 6 minutes in.
Yeah, and you'll see them packed in, even going into Station 3. Station 3 is no separation type station as well. Everyone can do the box overs fairly fast as well, even just a few seconds here or there. The setups are the same way as well, too. You'll start seeing the separation really when it comes down to the ski erg here in a bit.
These athletes all came out of zone 2 right around 6 minutes. And, we talked about that 30-minute barrier, how only 4 guys have gone under it, the potential for several to do so today. It's hard to judge exactly because the stations themselves don't take the same amount of time, but definitely it seems like a fast pace so far. As you see, here comes some other athletes. I think that's Mark Polzin with some others, Max Fennell there as well. Here comes Joseph Cotto and Brian Neely and David McGee just doing his thing kind of in that back of the pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I mentioned before, I'm assuming he has a strategy. All world-class athletes do when they come into a race. Let's just see if he starts ramping up maybe his 500-meter splits here in a bit.
There's Johnny Mares coming through. As Rich making his way around his second time.
His running form is so awesome to watch. I mean, he's like just a prancing runner, and I love it. I mean, he's so nimble, and he's so quick with that cadence as well, too, and he's so relaxed in the shoulders. Phenomenal running form.
He's one of those athletes that comes in with a running pedigree, ran in Division I in college, and that was a while ago, but you sort of had that experience, and there's definitely a difference in terms of background, an athlete like that versus some others who maybe didn't have that endurance or running specific background growing up and have kind of built into it, over the last few years.
Yeah, it clearly has paid off, obviously, into his hybrid racing scene as well.
So here's the box step overs. You see Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott basically in sync, at least until Rich finished. So he's already out. Dylan and Isaac right behind him, though. So again, not a huge gap as they come out of zone 3 and onto this next run.
Yeah, Rich, I'm sure is looking at his watch right now, looking at his splits, looking at everything. However, I'm sure he knows that Dylan and Isaac are breathing down his neck, knowing that even a few guys behind him are only maybe 30 seconds, 20 seconds at most right behind him. So I know he's not letting off the pedal quite yet.
And David McGee is starting to move up a little bit. He came out of that station ahead of Max Fennell. Here's Isaac Sanderson still in third place behind Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott. Dylan's a guy with a 30-30 DEKA FIT PR from last year, and that would be right now fourth place, 2 seconds ahead of Nick Riker on this year's leaderboard. So certainly someone with the experience and the ability to make some noise. As you see Nick working his way up. He's maybe trying to make a move into third place here as he catches up to Isaac.
Yeah, I wonder what Nick's strategy is on this today as well, too, knowing that there's more level athletes. Is he going to give it everything he's got on the bike situation? Is he going to move on the skier? I mean, he's battling right now. He's right behind him. I know his training has probably been going really well as well. So this will be interesting to see. And I would love to see him make his mark on the podium today as well. So.
So coming up next, as Rich Ryan will be the first one in, is going to be your med ball sit-up throws. Again, this is a station that's not too time-consuming or taxing for these guys, but here's Dylan Scott catching up to Rich, at least, making this a race as we head toward the midway point.
That's awesome. I feel bad for not giving Dylan a shout out at the beginning on this. He is making this a race with Rich right now, so this is great.
Yeah, I think Dylan heard that neither of us.
He's had some motivation from the High Rocks World Championship from his performance. I know he was a little disappointed, so I would imagine he has been going very dark in his training and finding some dark spots to really dig deep. And I think this is where he knows he can put that name back on the map.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe he was listening to our open right before the start of the race when neither of us
that too.
Had him on the podium, and that kind of lit a fire. But I saw Nick Riker take down Isaac Sanderson and jump into third place before this station. So Rich is out first, maybe sensing that Dylan was catching up and deciding to push a little bit on these sit-ups. Now Isaac comes out in third, and Nick, you would assume, is right behind him. There goes Nick Riker. So that's going to be a battle to watch. It seems like Isaac Sanderson and Nick Riker are going back and forth in that third and fourth spot as Rich has now opened up another gap on Dylan on this run.
Yeah, it seems like we kind of have our podium contenders at the moment right now. However, it's only 4 stations, and I know the runs typically is probably what's separating a lot, but it seems like the other pack is catching up on the runs just a little bit. At least that's just what it appears like. So I'll be real interested to see when it comes down to the bike. I really think the bike is where it's going to be the true separation of where we can really start saying who we think is going to be the 1, 2, and 3 in this race.
And just 3 more stations to go until we get to that air bike. Have you run a DEKA yet? Check out DEKA.fit for a local DEKA event near you. There are hundreds to choose from. That is DEKA.fit. We are approaching the midway point of this race. This is run number 5 of 10, heading into station 5, which is the skier here coming up as you see Rich Ryan about to lap Max Fennell. So Max took it out hot, as we've seen a few times this year, but has fallen back off the pace a little bit as we've gotten into the station. So right now, again, Rich, Dylan, and Nick Riker, your top 3.
This is where it starts messing with the other men in the heat that are maybe towards the back end of it, right? This is where the mental game, because how it's designed with the 2-lap run, chances are you might end up getting lapped, right? Now you got the second heat going off. It looks like as well, too. There's Kevin Gregory, Luke Hayes. As you're running and you're getting lapped from, let's say, Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott and stuff, you can get a little discouraged just a bit, and you start tending to back off the pace. And this is where you really need to dig deep and tell yourself, just because I'm getting lapped does not mean I need to back off this pace at all, because those gentlemen in Heat 2, like I mentioned before, they're going to want their spot and solidify their times at World Championships, so you cannot let the foot off the pedal.
So Rich and Dylan into the skier at 1, 2, and again, Nick Riker and Isaac Sanderson pretty close to each other.
They're close, yeah.
This is a battle, absolutely.
This is. There's Newbie. I mean, Newbie, I can tell with the inexperience when it comes to the techniques, maybe the box over to setups. But, he's been on a skier before, so has Megita. So they definitely know what they're doing. They're playing the back end. I wonder if this is where they make their move right here. There's Joseph Cotto.
I don't have
a
timestamp on it, but it seems like Megita's come a lot closer. Yeah, you have that sort of second pack with Newbie, Cotto, Megita. They're not too far off the pace, and maybe can sort of pull each other closer to Isaac and Nick and fight for that last podium spot.
Yeah, as long as you got someone that is probably right within a few seconds of you, you could feed off it on those runs, right? And if your run splits are more around like the 145, 140s, you could push it to go even faster, right? Just because you could say, hey, let's catch them. Let's go get them. And so once you feed off that, then you find yourself right back in the race for the podium.
this is, again, 500 meters on the ski erg. So similar to the row, roughly that 140-ish time domain for these athletes. Don't really have a look at the pace they're skiing right now, but you see Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott on either side in that first row. Again, coming in first, they get the prime position of having a slightly shorter run into the station and a slightly shorter run out.
How awesome is this? I mean, it's pretty much every single man in this first heat, all in the ski erg. I don't think we see this quite often. So, I mean, this is close, even to argue for the 10 through 12 spot as well.
And Dylan put in some work on the ski erg because he's out several steps before Rich, as now Isaac comes out in third. So this is interesting because I think this is the first station where Dylan has put time into Rich. The last few, we've seen Rich come out first and Dylan surprisingly catch up on the run. And so interesting to see how Rich approaches the situation now, kind of several seconds back for the first time in this race.
You know, I always like to, I want to ask these world-class athletes where exactly, you know, if you have do you have a strategy when you're in first the whole time? And do you have a strategy when you're chasing the rabbit, right? Because the thing is, you could be leading the race the whole time. And then once you get past, what does that do to you on your strategy and your mental capacity, right? Does it completely change the dynamic of your racing? Does it flabbergast you and you just don't know what to do and you feel defeated? What happens in that time and moment? So I wonder if Rich, it looks like he's just playing it true to what he wants to. I think he has a certain time in mind opposed to maybe a placement. Of course he wants to win, but I think he has a certain time in mind. So I don't think with Dylan taking out hot there that he'll be overstretching to try to catch him. But I could be wrong, you know? And so this is what makes it exciting and to watch how well these competitors do this race.
Yeah, and over the last week or so on, you know, the podcast that he does, Rich has talked about, you know, his fitness is good, but maybe he's not as sharp as he would want to be heading into a championship season, given that, you know, he's sort of coming off a short off season. And so that this may speak to that, as Dylan is the first athlete into the Farmers Carry, and he's well into this station as Rich comes in second place. So you've got a pretty sizable gap now, both between 1 and 2, but also between these top two guys and the rest of the field.
Dylan is here to make a name for himself today. 2023, he is ready. I think he wants that world championship title. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the fact that he made that move the way he did on the ski erg, a 152, yeah, he's not here to play around. He's not. Yeah, this man is ready to take it.
And Dylan's already out of the Farmers Carry, so 6 stations down, and now he's coming to the air bike. This is going to be probably the crux of the race, because if Dylan can hammer the air bike and keep this gap, then that may be it. And, you know, I wonder if Rich is saying, all right, I'm on track to put in a solid time. Dylan is going out, and who knows what happens on the bike, but I think Rich now is sort of locking in his position in no man's land and just saying, okay, I can qualify, get myself that one and done time on the board, as Dylan has just put his foot down over these last 2 stations and runs.
Yeah, this is now that they're separated a little bit more, you can't technically really feed off too much of this, because this is quite a gap, actually. This is where you tell yourself, all right, this is where I give it everything I got, maintain this, right? Or do I let off just a little bit to conserve some energy, because I know I still have 4 stations left? But again, we don't know what's going on in their head, but I have a feeling that these guys are just playing true to their strategy at the moment. And then after the bike, I think is where you're going to see the true turnout for sure.
I'm wondering if there's an issue with Isaac Sanderson's timing chip, because he hasn't shown up on any of these leaderboards, and actually there he is. So now it's popping up. You see Isaac in 3rd place, Nick Riker in 4th, but those two have been going back and forth. Very interesting. As we looked at the gap there, Isaac and Nick have traded places 2 or 3 times already, and there's still a lot to go. So, you know, we've got our 1-2 at least right now fairly well established at this point in the race, but excited to see, you know, what Isaac and Nick do as they continue to trade blows in the back half of this event.
Yeah, there's a different battle going on all in these men's heat, right? But right now, Dylan Scott is a lone ranger at the moment on his high horse on the assault bike, and he's crushing it. Now, here's the thing: did he sell too much in the ski erg or not? I have a feeling that answer is no. He knows exactly what he's doing, but this right here. He needs to maintain it. He can't lose it right here because Rich Ryan it just moved in, so this is where it gets very exciting.
Looking at about a 25-second gap, and actually Nick and Isaac have closed the gap on Rich. Wow. So we talked about 1-2 being established, but hang on a second because this is close enough to where this bike could make a difference. Now, we'll see if Rich was holding back for this, but just based on his cadence and positioning, Nick and Joseph are getting after it here.
Wow, look at this. Look how many athletes. Magida, too, even on the back end. Oh, there's Newbie just hammering it. Oh, man, you know what? I give up. Anybody I predicted for a top 3, I'm throwing it out the window. I have no idea at this point. I give up. And everyone, there goes Dylan. Man,
I think that was about a 105 from Dylan, so we'll get the official split. But, yeah, Dylan is on a mission, and he is taking this race by the throat and just slamming the door shut after this bike.
Yeah, it looks like Rich is pedaling just a little bit slower. Oh, there goes Riker. Oh, man, I hope Rich is okay. And there goes Isaac. Yeah, making their moves. Oh, yeah, Rich looks like he's hurting a little bit on that bike. So, yeah.
Yeah, Rich making his way back out of the run. So we've seen now a change. Dylan Scott way out in front. Nick Riker in second. Isaac Sanderson in third. And you see, look at that, 58 seconds from Nick Riker on the bike. It looked like his cadence was high as he was on there, and that output is extreme. So Nick, here to make a statement. He's got a top 5 time in the world this year, but he's not going to rest on those laurels. As, you know, maybe Dylan's out of reach, but you never know. The way that Nick closed that gap on second. But definitely no cracks in the armor for Dylan Scott right now.
Absolutely. 20 seconds can definitely be made in these last 3 stations, and most certainly these last 3 runs. But it looks like Dylan Scott, man, he's got the motivation. He can see it now of him being on the top person, maybe even the top time of the world too. We don't know, right? It's very possible, and it's definitely within reach. So he's not going to let Riker just have it by any means.
Stay in it, Rich. Stay in it.
Yeah, 29:09 is the time right now. Rylan Shadig and then Ryan Kent with a 29:20. So those are your 2 sub-30 so far this year. And Dylan certainly putting himself in a position to get after it. We're now on station 8, and he goes into these dead ball overs, and he is still moving really well.
Yeah, he sees it. He's doing great. He's moving efficient. He's not taking any breaks. He wants to go ahead and try to get these 20 done before even Nick Riker gets in there. I think he's going to be about maybe 10 to 12 in probably, but that's still enough space to where Nick Riker's not going to make any time on the gap when it comes to the station.
Yeah, and here comes Nick in. I think you're right. I don't have an exact count, but yeah, Dylan probably in the second half of these ball overs, and it's the kind of thing where Nick is going to be about halfway through seeing Dylan come out of this station, but seems like we have now a sizable gap between second and third, as Nick Riker is the only other athlete in here with Dylan Scott.
Yeah, this is where if Nick Riker is in fact going to make this charge, possibly at Dylan for this first place, he's going to have to do it on the runs. And I don't know exactly their splits on the runs, but Dylan is looking solid on his runs as well. But Nick's not going to make it up on these wall overs and probably not on the tank as well too. So he's going to have to hustle a little bit more on these runs.
Nick also a guy with a running background and trying to put that to work. I think Rich recovered a little bit on that last run because he's in, several seconds after Nick Riker, but into this zone. Now Nick is out. And there's Isaac Sanderson, who I didn't see come in, but he must have just been out of view. So I think he may still be in third place with Rich in fourth, but we'll see the order as these guys finish up the station.
Rich might not be getting the placement that he wants today. Of course, everybody wants to win, unfortunately. But I do believe even maybe with his blow up on the assault bike as well, he can still have one of the top 20 fastest times as well too, right? So he needs to hang into this, dig deep right now. I'm sure he's hurting at the moment. But if he wants to solidify his spot at the World Championships and then reclaim his title, he's going to have to do it today. Oh, there goes Megita. All right.
And David
They're all
Megita's
good.
in fourth place. So we talked about maybe him having a race plan and slow playing it to try and pick off some guys later on. That seems to be what's happening. As Jarrett Newby, it looks like, got out as
11
well.
seconds
Megita in
behind.
fifth.
Oh man, this podium spot is going to be fun to watch when it comes down to the burpees.
Yeah, Jarrett Newby,
Yeah,
a guy
looks-
whose name we haven't said a lot yet, but he's just kind of like Megita, biding his time, working his way up the field.
Yeah, the tank, you know, I really don't feel like tank, there's a lot of moves that happen with it as well too, because it seems like most men, or even females for that matter, push and pull kind of at the same rate depending on their fatigue levels. But I will say Newbie is a much bigger guy than Isaac. I shouldn't say much. I feel like it's an insult, but he's just a bigger guy. So I feel like he might be able to push and pull this tank faster than Isaac. So if Isaac wants to solidify the third spot, he's going to have to make it up on that run right before and after the tank.
And if you saw that when these guys were coming in, Dylan had almost lapped Isaac, as Dylan turned into the station. So that just goes to show the work that Dylan Scott is putting in, as now Nick Riker comes in after Dylan is already done with at least one length of this push and pull. So Dylan Scott, again, was kind of neck and neck with Rich Ryan through the first half of this race, really made a statement, before and during the assault bike, and is now in first place with Nick Riker kind of going it alone in second, trying to put a solid time down.
Man, Dylan is looking smooth. There's not a single hiccup in any of his transitions, his runs, his station times. He is here, man. This is awesome. This is a great return for him, because I believe he hasn't competed since the High Rocks World Championships. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but he is killing it right now. And I think he just wants to be a one and done as well too. I don't know if he's competing in Orlando, and then until we see him again at the World Championships in Dallas.
So 1-2, we're into this station way before everyone else, but there is an absolute pack you see there kind of in the background with Isaac Sanderson, Jarrett Newby, David Megita, Rich Ryan, I think Mark Polzine, or I see Joseph Cotto in there as well.
Yeah,
so there is a whole squad on this push and pull with third place on the line.
Look at this carnage. This is awesome. When do we ever get to witness this? This is, like I said, this is by far going to be the best races, both men and women. The women, it's going to be the same exact way. And we get the honor of commentating it today, man. This is awesome. So it's going to come down to the burpees. Like I said, down to the burpees.
And if this pack is all in the same length, David Megita is making a move on this tank, as he is opening up a gap, at least to the extent that you can, relative to all the other athletes. As Dylan Scott, I believe, is out.
All right.
And on his last run. I think this will probably be the last push and pull for Nick Riker in second place.
Yeah, I believe he was just one whole length behind, if we saw it correctly with the camera. Yep. But this is now Dylan's first place to lose. This is his, right? Unless for whatever reason he has a blow up, which I figured he will not. This is now his to lose. Now, as far as second, third, and fourth, I don't know. Nick's going to have to hold on. So let's go, Nick. Dig deep, man. Let's go.
Nick's got about 3 minutes and 15 seconds to improve on his time for this season so far. 30:32 is what Nick Riker put down earlier in the year. He's got one more run and 20 burpees. As we get a look at what we expect to be your second place finisher in Nick Riker, with Dylan Scott probably just 10 or 15 seconds from finishing this run and getting into the burpees.
Oh, no. So on the other camera, Newbie went on fourth push and pull, started running, was called back to do his fifth. So therefore, Megita now just making his move out. So Newbie went back on the push and pull, which that's unfortunate, because that's time costing, of course. Oh,
there's Joseph Cotto out.
Joseph.
And he's made a move in front of Isaac Sanderson. So Joseph Cotto, with that DEKA FIT experience, I think has paced his effort a little bit better than Isaac in his first. Rich now comes out.
No, just Rich, yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate for Newbie. Man, because I know he probably made his move on the tank a little bit. So let's see. Yeah, 2:03. See, so much faster than the other gentleman, because just his size advantage to the strength, right? So. All right, here we go, Dylan.
So here we go. Dylan Scott has got about 80 seconds to become the fifth guy to break 30 in DEKA FIT, and he's got 18 burpees left.
He's got it, man. Dylan Scott. Put some respect on that name right now. I know he wants it. I know he wants that respect on that name.
Dylan Scott came in with a plan. He executed it perfectly, put himself into the race right from the beginning, and is now more than halfway through his burpees as second place Nick Riker comes into the zone. 45 seconds for Dylan Scott to do these last few burpees to break 30 minutes.
Come on, Nick. Let's solidify second today, buddy. Looking smooth. I think right now it's his to lose as well, too, at this point, right? I think he can – I wouldn't say casual burpee. I'm sure he wants to get a faster time because remind you, I mean, there's a whole nother race right in Orlando. It's hard to tell what name might come out and decide, you know what, I'm going to do Orlando or I'm going to do DEKA FIT and have even a faster time. So I think Nick Riker is definitely going to get a huge PR today.
And there's Dylan Scott. 21:53 unofficially for Dylan Scott. Wow. That's your third fastest time in the world this year. Nick Riker about midway through his burpees. David Magida, I believe, is in third place with Joseph Cotto in fourth as they both come into the station. So we'll see what the time is here for Nick. He's going to be right on what his time was earlier this year.
Come on, Nick. Come on. Yeah, I think Joseph and David Magida both came in at the same time, and we know how fast Joseph is, but it does look like Magida's just more efficient on the burpees.
And Nick Riker about 5 seconds faster than his 30:32 coming in. So solid effort, again, running solo for the second half of the race for Nick Riker. And here we go. The battle for the third podium position is on. You've got 6 or 7 guys here on burpees at the same time.
You could clearly tell Magida way more efficient with the burpees. Yeah, third place. There we go. Great job, Magida.
And there it is. David Magida comfortably sub 31, puts himself into the top 10. You expect that to hold up with only, one elite level race left in the qualification period. And now we've got some other athletes finishing up their burpees. Isaac Sanderson, a strong debut as well as he comes across. And Rich Ryan, not the day maybe he was hoping for, but 31:10 as Joseph Cotto comes in right behind him.
A newbie in 7th. Yeah. Wow. Look, how close of a race was 3 through 7. That's nuts. I'm sorry, even second for that matter. Magida wasn't too far behind Riker. Man, just 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Man, crazy race. There's Mark as well. I'm not sure if that's a PR for him or not after his podium finish on the last race that he did. But this is, man, that was exciting to watch. That was just pure carnage, pushing down to the final station, which makes it so exciting for viewers, everyone at home to watch as well. These are the best in the world competing on the highest of levels, pushing themselves and digging deep. And we found out Dylan Scott is here, ladies and gentlemen. This man, it wants it. And I'd honestly, I would say he wants it more than anybody else. So watch out for Dylan Scott, everybody.
And Luke, you mentioned Mark Polzin. That is a PR for him. He was 32 flat coming in. So he took about 20 seconds off his time in a case where just the competitiveness of this race really pulled everyone forward. To put this performance collectively by the field in perspective, before today, Grady Jackson was in 7th place at 31:30. I believe 7 guys all went under 31:20 in this race today. So they're all now in the top 10. Some of them were already in the top 10. We've bumped some guys out of the top 20 who maybe will have to come back in Orlando, but we expected, a show. We got one. You mentioned the potential of, 4 guys that could go sub 30. Only one did, and it was maybe one of the ones we didn't expect, but probably should have, because Dylan Scott is an absolute competitor. He came out with his season debut on a mission, and he absolutely got after it today.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. Dylan was, in fact, one of the guys maybe I had in mind for sub 30 as well, if I'm backtracking. But, of course, I'm trying not to have him hate on me that I didn't predict him on the podium. Don't hate me, Dylan. But, man, that was exciting. But right now, the women's field. This is the deepest women's field I think I've ever seen in a race since the World Championships. This is going to be a boxing match to the finish. So, again, I have this prediction going all the way down to the burpees. I have Megan Jacoby, I believe, is going to solidify herself in first place. But again, this is her first true DEKA Fit race, so you just never know with that situation. With Chris and Vivian as well, it's going to push it. I don't see Carly. So, there's Carly. Okay. Carly Wopat, and then Alondra Grinley as well, too. That's another name that most people don't like to just shine. It doesn't seem like maybe she's on social media maybe enough to really have that flash and flare and be recognizable all the time, but she's always in the mix. So you cannot knock her out of that whatsoever.
As we transition now to this women's race, I want to remind you that for the best live race coverage in the sport, be sure to subscribe to the OCR Report on YouTube. The OCR Report is the official broadcast partner of DEKA. That is youtube.com/the OCR Report. Subscribe today. So here we go. Last briefing from Yancey to this women's field. You see right there in front in the all black with kind of the stars and stripes headband is Meg Jacoby, who's the DEKA mile world record holder. She's the High Rocks world record holder. She's got a strong DEKA time as well. And she is someone we expect to be right there in the mix. Chris Rogloski in the red top, world championship competitor last year. Carly Wopat is the DEKA strong world record holder. Haven't seen her in this type of aerobic event before. And you mentioned Alondra Greenlee, kind of, again, biding her time sort of in the back of this group standing there. But she's someone with maybe as much, if not more, experience than any of these other athletes in terms of hybrid racing. She's been in the High Rocks Elite 15 multiple times, finished second place in all three events during DEKA World Championship last year. Again, that's the fit, mile, and strong. So we'd expect her to be in the mix as well. Some other athletes kind of in the mix who have put several solid times down this year. So we were talking about the men's field and how exciting. This is going to be just as exciting because, again, you've got, what can Meg Jacoby do? Alondra Greenlee, it's her season debut as well. Carly Wopat's new to this format, so very excited to see how this goes this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other women in this field, Michelle Navarro, right there, you can see with the Spartan head in the back right behind Megan Jacoby. She podiumed the last race, right? And so she very well could be on a DEKA Fit high at the moment to where she just solidified all her training into this, knowing maybe the level of competition that she's going to be going against today. So, and just look out for those type of names as well, too. I believe that they're going to be in the mix at the very beginning of the race as well.
Yeah, so right now, the time that's the cutoff for World Championships is 37:25, but we expect that to go down, especially because Meg Jacoby, Alondra Greenlee, and some others don't have a time on the board. But again, just like the men's field, you have some athletes in the back half of this field in terms of seeding that are top 20 contenders. Bethany McChesney right now is 19th in the world. And, she's maybe not going to be in the top 5 today. It just shows you how impressive, this field is, and very excited to see how it goes.
Absolutely. And what did you say that time was by chance for qualification?
Right now, 20th is 37:25.
Every single woman in this heat will beat that today. That is definitely my poll prediction, every single one of them. So, and Annie, I think this is her first race. She also competed at Grit Games. I think this is her first one, but I still believe she breaks 37 as well. So this is the type of competition we came here to see. So.
And Bethany McChesney, you see there on the left, coming down from Canada, won the first Canadian DEKA Fit last month. There's Michelle Navarro, a podium competitor, top 10 at DEKA Fit World Championship last year. Another athlete already in the top 20, looking to use the competitiveness of this race to improve her time and positioning.
Yeah, Julie Best right there to the right with the blue tank top. Janelle, I believe, Teal. I apologize if I ruined that last name. And then, of course, Annie, too, those three that was announced before. So.
Championship is Lori Winkleman. Come on down.
Oh yeah, Lori Rinkelman. That's right. Her and Michelle shared the podium in the last race. So Lori, her strategy is to play it safe at the beginning and then ramp it up towards the end. But with this type of elite talent that she's going to be going against, I wonder if she's going to change her strategy at all.
And 7th at DEKA FIT at last year's DEKA World Champions is Chris Rulowski. Come on down.
And here's Chris Rogolowski, who is a top 10 competitor in multiple events last year. She's won a High Rocks World Championship. She had that performance at DEKA World Championship right after going 100 miles the weekend before. So Chris, again, no stranger to competition, more so than any other athlete in this field. We would expect her to at least be in the mix today for sure.
Absolutely. There's Alondra right now as well.
Again, under the radar in the sense that she's, fourth to last in this call out, but second place at all three events last year. Again, a High Rocks elite competitor, someone we'd expect to be in the mix. There's Vivian Tafuto coming in, I believe, with she doesn't have a time on the board this year. The fastest DEKA FIT PR of anyone, I believe, in the field today. And there's Megan Jacoby, the world record holder in DEKA Mile, world record holder in High Rocks, someone with a strong running pedigree, and expect her to be right out at front.
Everybody wants to be like MJ. Oh, man. A true gladiator right here.
Carly Wopat, a professional volleyball player, only woman to go sub-12 in DEKA Strong. She competed in grit games a couple of weeks ago. Again, this is kind of a new event for her. We haven't seen her too much yet on the hybrid racing scene, but very excited to see her throw herself in the mix here today.
Absolutely. I wonder how this is going to translate. Again, she was also a competitor at the grit games, and one of the last events was an endurance event for running. She did really well compared to the actual, runners, I should say. She held her own. She did what she could, and she still podiumed the grit games, of course. So with it being just a 5K and her being fresh and, the stations not being too terrible taxing, I wonder what her anaerobic output is. Could she push it truly for about 30 to 33 minutes? That I really want to see. We know like Megan, Jacoby, Chris, Michelle, all of them, we know they can do it. We've seen them do it before. But let's see how Carly does. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, and volleyball is a kind of a fast twitch sport where you're sort of up and down, on the court, up and whatnot. So interesting to see how that pedigree translates to a race like this. You see Carly there kind of in the back of this pack as we are officially underway, and right to the front goes Julie Best and Chris Rogolowski.
Let's go, Chris. I was just with Chris last weekend in Colorado, and she came back from Leadville and did a DEKA Strong at one of her gyms as well, too. And she still did a phenomenal time. Like it was nothing. Everything with a smile on her face. She's nuts. Her capability and everything she does is phenomenal. There is no fear in her whatsoever.
And now comfortably in third place, again, all black, Stars and Stripes headband is Megan Jacoby. Expect her to make a move sooner rather than later as we are into this first run.
Xander, who you got, buddy? I meant to ask you beforehand. What's your podium prediction here?
I think I'm gonna say that Meg takes it. I'll put Vivian in second and Alondra in third.
That's good. That's a good pick, man. You can't go wrong with that. I also have Jacoby winning it as well, too. I think similar to Dylan Scott today, and maybe even so Rich Ryan before he came in as well. She wants to do one and done. I doubt she wants to travel out to Orlando unless she maybe wants to go to Disney World and then solidify her spot for the World Championships. Got her in first. I have also Vivian in second. And then I got Chris taking third. Again, no shots at Alondra whatsoever. I just know Chris's fitness level only, I've been around her, so that's the only reason why I'm predicting that as well. But Alondra's going to be right in the mix, and this is going to be fun to watch.
And you see Chris in third, Alondra in fourth right there. So we'll see how this unfolds as our athletes are now all into the lunges. I think that was Julie Best in first, Meg Jacoby in second, with Alondra, Chris, and the rest of the field right behind them.
Yeah, once again, all jam-packed in the first station. It's going to be like this for the first 3-4 stations for sure. By the skier, we should start seeing maybe more the top 5, top 6 play it out. It'll kind of weed out there the back end of the heat, and then once we get to stations 7 and 8, we'll start really pinpointing the true podium contenders.
And there you go, one station in. There's the hybrid racing pedigree of Meg Jacoby coming to the forefront. As soon as this starts to get compromised, she is out in first place. So Meg Jacoby out first. We'll see who comes with her, if this is going to be a solo effort or if it can be competitive there at the top of the race. But Meg Jacoby kind of eased her way into it in the first 200-300 meters, and is certainly putting her foot down here now onto run number 2.
She is such an impressive athlete. I mean, all these women are, of course, but Megan Jacoby just, I mean, I feel like she just came out of the fields in Iowa or something. She just walked out of the cornfield. When they say, you know, you build it, they will come. Well, we built the arenas for these amazing hybrid athletes, and Megan Jacoby just slow walked out of the cornfield, and she just solidified herself on the scene by being Rookie of the Year, a world champion in the DEKA Mile last year, because I believe that's the only one she qualified for. But everything else, she's a world record holder. I mean, that's crazy. And she's only year 1 on this sport, and I'm sure she's not even in her prime yet. So this is what she's going to do with this sport. She's going to put it on the map for everybody and make it even bigger for everybody.
Yeah, we talk about the lunge not really being a separator, and here's Meg Jacoby 5 seconds faster than anybody in the field, as she, again, has established a 10-second gap coming out of that first station.
Yeah, you could clearly tell she's practicing her stations, and so she's going to solidify this early. I think she wants to put this away early, on a similar mindset like Rich, and I think she's going to be able to sustain it as well too. No one even close. Wow. Yeah, she's putting it away early.
Well, can you hang with the best of the best at DEKA? The next DEKA Series race is September 16th in Orlando. Sign up today at DEKA.fit and watch the action live only on the OCR Report. So we're into station number 2. Meg Jacoby gets strapped in, takes her time a little bit to make sure she's in the right position, and here comes the rest of the pack. You've got Julie, Vivian, Alondra, Bethany, others. Chris is in there as well. So Meg has opened up a gap, but this is the case where the rest of the race is going to pull themselves forward and together for hopefully some strong times.
Yeah, this is where experience pays off a little bit on a rower. You know, technique does matter. You can't just, I mean, I guess you can manhandle a rower if you want to, if that's the term we want to use, but I mean, it's not necessarily something, you're just going to overtax yourself if you're not using the right technique. In other words, if you're not breathing correctly, if you're not pacing yourself correctly as well too, you're going to just overtax your legs in this situation, and it will matter in the race later for sure.
And you saw it right there. If you noticed, Meg is right around 150 into the 140s. They showed Chris right next to her at about 202. So that just shows the experience, the ability, and the output that Meg Jacoby has against a competitor at the top of the field. So we'll see what the gap is, as presumably Meg will come out of this station first as well.
Absolutely. Man, look at that. Low 150s. You know, I'm going to put it on the map here. Yancey, if you watch and listen to this, man, go ahead. Let's see women versus men. Come on. I want to see this. I really feel like the women's field might take the men's field, man, because these women are super impressive, even when it comes to the stations. They're putting up times that the men are doing. I mean, even on the rower, skier, assault bike, it's crazy what they can do. So we need to have it. Come on, let's see it. Let's make it happen.
Still at 151, the last 30 meters for Meg. So she'll be out in just a couple of seconds. As there she goes, Meg Jacoby about 6:17 into this race. So think about that. I think Dylan and Rich came out at about 6:03 or so. So Meg's only 10, 15 seconds through 2 stations off the pace of the top men.
So I'm not surprised here with this transition. Chris isn't the strongest rower, and I think she knows it as well too, because she was definitely hanging out in the low 2s while these women are probably in the high 150s or low 150s. But she'll make up that ground on the running for sure.
I tell you what, Carly Wopat
Where's
is
she
in the
going?
mix. Saw her come out kind of in that around 6th or 7th. You see there right behind Julie, in front
She
of
was
Janelle,
conserving.
Michelle, and Bethany. So
my
this whole top 10 is outstanding, as Megan Jacoby has opened up a gap, but we've got a battle on our hands with Alondra, Vivian, Chris, Annie kind of in that 2nd through 5th, all pretty close together.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that Megan might solidify this first spot, but we don't know. I mean, it's still a long race, right? But man, this battle between second, maybe even all the way to fifth or sixth, it'll come down to the wire for sure. Yeah, look at them all grouped together. Yeah, this is awesome. Even Carly, she's hanging in there. I mean, she knows probably running has to be, I mean, probably her biggest weakness, just given the sport that she plays. Volleyball doesn't require any running, right? Requires just super athleticism, and that's exactly what she has, and strength and power, which is exactly what she has. And she might not know DEKA Fit is her jam, and I think she's maybe more geared towards the DEKA Strong, of course, being the world record holder and everything. But I love that she is at least putting herself in a spot that's just not in her element, and I love that about an athlete, because you truly find yourself, and she very well just still may make the top 20 just to compete here in Dallas as well.
And Meg Jacoby out of the box step overs. Yeah, you're talking about Carly. It's a case where, if she can get in that top 20 with the way this race is competitive, well, then she's got a couple of months to, work on her aerobic capacity. And if she really wants to dedicate time to this, it'd be interesting to see what she could then potentially do at a World Championship. So now we've got the whole pack coming in. Again, Megan first. I think it was Vivian and Alondra in second and third coming in essentially together.
Yep, and then Chris just shortly behind in fourth, and then the whole pack right behind him.
Yeah,
what's crazy about Carly's DEKA Strong time is she's right under 12 minutes. If she could just get her 5K to a 20, she's at 32. I mean, that's just crazy because her DEKA Strong time is so impressive. So if she can get that 5K time even down to just 20-21 with the transitions, I mean, she's right there. She's right in contention.
Look at that. Chris, Alondra, and Vivian all within 1 second of each other.
Wow.
Not too far behind Meg Jacoby, but, Meg's got some opportunity to open it up here with the run. But, you've got first place running by yourself for the most part. Second, third, and fourth all together. Again, they can maybe work their way up. And if there's a chance to close the gap, working together might help with that. But then again, maybe Meg has just been biding her time and will open it up. You see, even on these stations that you wouldn't necessarily think are separators, she is putting in the fastest station time, almost 10 seconds faster than Vivian on the box step overs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Megan Jacoby, she's definitely the only person that we're missing here in this race to really make this the best is Lauren Weeks, of course, right? And she knows that's her, her true competitor that she's going to be looking out for, right? I would argue to say, if we're going to put this in an analogy, right, that Lauren Weeks is like Michael Jordan and Megan Jacoby is LeBron James. You got the greatest of all time going against the next greatest of all time, or, the goats and goats of their own divisions for that matter. And Megan Jacoby really wants to make this. I know she wants a world championship for sure. So this is now time to put her name on the map, get it up there, and then come December, go against Lauren Weeks and go head-to-head.
Yeah, and would be remiss to not mention Tara Jackson as well. The two of them, if you've got Lauren and Tara in this race, I mean, that would be, could be a preview of what we're going to see at World Championship. It's
Tara, that's right.
Incredible.
Yeah,
and, the way that this race is competitive in this second through fourth, again, you put Lauren, Tara, maybe another athlete or two in the mix. I can't wait to watch World Championship, let alone what we've got, in the next 25 minutes here in this race.
Absolutely. Yeah, they would all be right there on the med ball setups with them and stuff too. And you never know what Orlando might bring. There might be a dark horse that we just don't know about, and they wanted to wait to that last race to solidify themselves. So you just never know still with the race series with one more race left.
Yeah, it was about this time last year when Meg Jacoby kind of broke onto the scene at High Rocks, making her, first step into the hybrid waters. It's kind of amazing to think that she's really only been doing this competitively for about a year. And, you see the results that she's put down at all kinds of different events. So, again, this station, not very fast, but Vivian Tafuto's made a bit of a move here, coming out in second place with Chris in third and Alondra falling a couple seconds off the pace, but she's got plenty of time to make that up here as she comes out in fourth place.
Yeah, second through fourth right now. Vivian, Chris, and Ilandra, they're going to be feeding off each other this whole race, and it's going to go back and forth, I believe. So other ladies not too far behind as well too. So they very well could make a case for themselves. Very well could get a minute and a half PR today. I mean, you never know, right? So. But Megan's looking smooth. She doesn't even look like she's breathing hard. She looks relaxed. Running form very similar to as far as to Rich Ryan with those shoulders right there, looking nice and relaxed, tucked in. Already passing the other female competitors.
And again, Megan's an athlete with a running background. She ran collegiately for a time at UConn. Again, that was several years ago at this point. But, when you have a lifetime of running and that kind of in your DNA, it definitely, helps in a situation like this because you've got that form and technique to go back on even when you start to get compromised.
Absolutely. Yep. That's something you could fall back on for sure. All right, going in the skier. Let's see if she maintains about a 2, or let's see if she goes a little bit faster. Given with her experience on the skier, I have a feeling it's low 150s is going to be my guess.
So this is station number 5 for Megan Jacoby. Your leader right now, someone we expected to be in the mix, if not in front at this point, and there she is. She's led essentially wire to wire, made the move into first on that first run. And here's Vivian Tafuto in second place.
All right. So Vivian, I had the honor of in Austin. I judged her for her DEKA Strong time, and I believe she went low 12s, if I'm not mistaken. And man, she crushed the assault bike. I want to say she did the assault bike in about a minute 5, a minute 3. So I don't know Megan's assault bike time, right? So this is going to be interesting to see if that's maybe where Vivian makes her run and catches ground on Jacoby.
And some other athletes like Annie Schiller, Michelle Navarro, Bethany McChesney all in here as well. As we saw in the men's race, the second half, you can make some moves. Even if you're in 6th, 7th place right now, that doesn't mean you're locked into there. Bethany, who you see here in the red top in the foreground, she is someone with DEKA FIT experience, won a race a couple of weeks ago in Toronto. She also has a running background, and so we'll see what she can do in the second half of this race. You see Julie Best there as well. Again, we've got close to 10 athletes here on the ski erg at this point, although Meg is going to be out sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And then this lady right here in the yellow, her name wasn't called. I don't know her name, so I apologize. But she's right in the mix as well too. So it looks like all the women are in right now. So this is awesome. Same thing with the men's field that we saw earlier. This is just because you're in a certain position at the moment does not mean you're going to be at it here in the next 2 stations. So you better just keep it going and keep moving because these women are breathing down each other's necks.
So Megan Jacoby is out less than 16 minutes into this race. She is effectively at the halfway mark. Vivian Tafuto was in second place. She's still on the skier right now. We'll get a look and to see if she comes out in second or if Chris or maybe Ilandra made up some time.
Yeah, again, I think this is another station that Chris tends to struggle with, even though she looks like she's moving really well. Oh, there goes Vivian. Okay.
There goes Vivian, about 20, 25 seconds back of Meg, I think, at this point.
So now maybe no ground caught at the moment. There goes Chris. Okay.
And Chris able to hang on to third, although I think Ilandra made up a bit of the gap. So we've got a podium battle on our hands here. And this isn't about us, Luke, but we had our podium picks. I think between the two of us, the top 4 in this race are who we said. So it's kind of playing out the way that we thought, but we don't know how it's going to finish in the second half of this race. This is going to be a very exciting conclusion here as, again, Megan Jacoby solidly in first place right now, but still a long way to go in what is, technically a new event for her, even though she is the DEKA mile world record holder. And the addition of, 4,000 or 3,500 more meters of running is right in her wheelhouse. We'll see what Meg can throw down here in the second half of this race.
Absolutely. If Vivian has any chance of trying to get podium, she's going to have to make room on the stations because, like you mentioned, Megan Jacoby's running background and stuff, she's just not going to allow it, even compromised as well, too, for that matter. So Vivian's going to have to move on these stations. And like I said, that bike, I saw how fast she did it. So if she has anything, but DEKA Fit is different than DEKA Strong. And I think Megan knows this as well, too. So her station times are phenomenal right now. So, I almost had a hiccup there for a second.
Yeah, Meg kind of went inside the sign, maybe almost turned into the wrong station, but able to get herself to the farmer's carry as she's on to station number 6.
Yeah, so these weights are slightly lighter than the High Rocks, and it's half the distance as well too. No one's breaking on this, and if anything, they're going to be running with these weights for sure.
For the latest in hybrid fitness news, race results, and live race coverage, be sure to follow the OCR Report on Instagram. If you're looking for today's DEKA race results, follow at the OCR Report on Instagram today.
All right, she crushed that right before Chris even got in.
Yeah, she's out as number 3 comes in. Chris Rogowski in 3rd place here. You see Vivian Tafuto there in the background about halfway through, maybe even a little bit more through this station.
Oh, that would have been nasty right there with that slip.
Yeah, with this concrete surface, you never know. You get some sweat in there and stuff can happen, but Chris able to hang on to it as Alondra still in striking distance right now in 4th place.
Chris is looking really strong. I wouldn't say that she has put a lot of DEKA Fit training in, more so just the volume of running that she's been doing in Colorado and all the hiking and everything. So she's looking really good. On the station times, of course, this is where Alondra can make up that ground because it was apparent that on the ski erg and the rower, she was about a good maybe 10 seconds slower than most of the women in the field. So therefore, she needs to make sure she maintains it on the runs and the stations to not be too laid back on it as well.
We get a look at the split times now, and you see, for these women, the farmer's carry is not much of a challenge. It's really just the output you can put in because, 43 to 46 seconds for our top 4, kind of holding position as we now, again, are on to run number 7. You see Carly Wopat still in the mix, picking up the weight. She's probably coming up to what is going to be her strength in the air bike in station number 7.
Yeah, I think she'll make up some ground there for sure, too. So I have a feeling she's going to be throwing down the fastest time. If there's one time for her to shine in this race, assault bike for sure.
We're now 20 minutes in. Again, only one athlete on the women's side has gone under 34 so far this year, and that was, of course, at this point, Megan Jacoby's arch rival, Lauren Weeks, who has the fastest time in the world this year. Para Jackson, 34:04. Michaela Norman, 34:07. Those are the times that are on notice with the way that Megan Jacoby's been racing today. She is now on to station number 7, and this shouldn't be a problem for her either in this assault bike.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume that this would be hard for her either, even though I know assault bikes aren't in the other hybrid races as she does. But I have a feeling just with her power that she could generate in herself and the fact that she's stronger than probably 75% of all men out there on the planet, she's going to do just fine.
Just a quick look over her shoulder as Vivian Tafuto came in again 15 to 20 seconds later.
Oh, there goes Vivian. She's hammering it. All right, this is where she can make up that ground maybe by 10 seconds, and that matters, right? So definitely in this type of race.
Go.
Worth noting that Vivian's PR of 33:55, that was 5th on the 2022 kind of regular season leaderboard and would currently be 2nd. So she's someone who, maybe you don't talk about as a championship contender, but is right there in the mix. And she could be on the way to putting in a solid time in what's her first race of the season here in DEKA FIT.
Vivian is overdue for a podium spot in a race. She got 4th, I believe, at High Rocks World Championships, 4th at DEKA World Championships last year, too. She is due for a podium spot. She definitely deserves one with her athletic ability as well, too. And this could very well be her year.
And Megan Jacoby is off the assault bike. You see Alondra Greenlee there putting in the work She's probably about midway through her calories, but Meg Jacoby, our race leader, is out.
Go Beth!
Trying to see, think time-wise. I think she made a little bit. I think she made a little bit if I did my math right. So I think she gained about maybe 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah, we should get the split times here in a minute.
I don't see Chris. I saw Alondra come in. I would assume Chris is on the far right side.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. As
Yeah,
she definitely
okay,
did come in third. And there is Chris Rogowski. Okay, so she was right behind our rabbit. And Vivian actually 4 seconds faster than Meg on the bike. Meg Jacoby still has a solid gap, but again, Vivian is firmly establishing that second place position right now.
Yeah, even gaining 4 seconds, like I said, any second matters. Now it's about that run after, right? The run after Station 7 is by far the worst run, maybe the slowest split run out of everybody, given the paces and stuff. So I wonder who will transition a little bit faster in those runs going into Station 8.
Looking awesome, Meg.
And it looks like now we've got Meg kind of with the second heat on the course. As there's a look at Carly Wopat hammering the bike as we would expect.
See,
Look at that separation
yeah,
in the field. Look at these split times. 2:03 and 2:10 for our third and fourth place competitors. Vivian and Megan 30 seconds faster or more than Alondra and Chris on this station. So the bike definitely
crazy.
a separator, not for the race lead necessarily, but for 1 and 2 breaking away from the rest of the pack.
Absolutely. So like we mentioned before, right, Station 7 is typically what separates who we can really kind of pinpoint who's battling what. And it's very apparent that Megan and Vivian, unless a blow-up happens, that they're battling, they're going to solidify 1 and 2 for today. And Alondra making her gains on Chris on these stations. I had a feeling she was going to be faster at the bike. So Chris is going to have to make up for it on the runs to make sure she stays ahead of Alondra here.
Let's go, Meg.
Meg Jacoby, Vivian Tafuto, our top 2 athletes are here on Zone 8, the dead ball wallovers, 20 reps of this. Again, the weight isn't huge for these women, but it's more about the output coming off the bike and a run.
Vivian, I don't know how many reps she's behind, but I feel like she made gap on that run as well, too. Oh, man, this is a battle. This is good. This is exciting to watch. This is a great camera angle.
Seems like they're going at a similar pace. Okay, Meg Jacoby is out at about 25:10. So we'll get a look at the gap here as Vivian Tafuto finishes up her last few reps.
Come on, Vivian. Okay, so Chris maintained it there on the run.
About a 22-second gap as Vivian comes out of the station. So she is solidly in second place as she was finishing up right as Chris and Alondra came in. But we are going to have a battle for this third place position. Chris Rogowski, Alondra Greenlee have been going back and forth. Chris seems like passed Alondra or at least made up a gap on the run and is slightly ahead of her heading into this station.
Yeah, one of us is going to stand corrected, buddy. So on our podium prediction here. And here's the thing with Chris. She needs to be the first one out, and then she needs to gap Alondra a little bit on this run because it's already been proven on the stations. It seems like Alondra has a little bit more power output than Chris in strength, and that's where she's going to shine on the tank a little bit as well, too. So Chris is going to have to push it here, and then that final run, give it everything she's got before going into the burpees.
If you can see there in the background, Megan Jacoby coming around on her second lap, as you see now her in the inset screen. So Chris is out, and Alondra is out maybe 5 or 6 seconds back.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man, this is going to be a close one. This is going to be fun to watch, man. Coming down to the wire. Look at Carly making some ground. I didn't see her assault bike split time, but, I mean, she's right there. Could very well maybe top 5 possibly, because I imagine she's going to move that tank like it's nothing as well too.
Again, remember, right now, 37:25 is the 20th place time. But remember, most of these women, at least several in the top 10, don't have a time on the board this year. So you're probably looking somewhere in the 36s to be firmly in that top 20. But as we get toward the latter part of this race, a number of athletes are going to be under that threshold here coming out of this one, as Megan Jacoby is now solidly into the tank push and pull.
Imagine pulling that tank and having 7 people just right in your face as you're doing it. I mean, talk about the superstar ability that you have where everyone just flashes their lights at you as you're competing. So, and to stay focused, that's what's important, to stay focused and to and just be mindful of your own self and just still being able to compete. If it was with Meg, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but I know like Chris, for example, she'd be smiling and probably taking photos the whole time opposed to competing. So
and it seems like a very
much smoother. Yeah.
I was going to say a very similar race for Vivian that we saw from Nick Riker, where kind of in that mix in the top 4, then in the second half of this race, establishing in second, maybe the win is out of reach, but she is, you know, letting everyone know that she's going to be a force to be reckoned with come championship season, because she has opened up a huge gap on 3rd and 4th as now Chris comes in.
All right, let's see how much of a gap she put on Alondra in this run. Like I said, she needed to run that last split hard, and it looks like she did because here comes Alondra. Okay, so she's about a whole push length ahead at the moment. She's going to have to maintain that. So,
yeah, and based on Chris being about 5 seconds ahead coming out of the last station, I think she might have put in another 5 seconds or so on that run.
Oh, man, this is awesome. 4 world-class athletes right there battling it out. The best that hybrid race has to offer. And then there's the competitor with the yellow tank. Man, I wish I knew her name. She's right there for battling for 5th with, I believe she's by herself, actually. I don't see any other female competitor.
It looks like Stephanie Hillman,
okay,
assuming that's accurate, is that 5th place competitor, as Meg Jacoby is out. So she's on her last run. And
Stephanie's upset her name wasn't announced at the beginning, so she's like, "Damn it, this is who I am, and let's go ahead and put me on the map here." Oh no, as she falls. Bad timing. That was bad timing.
So Megan Jacoby well onto this last run at the 30-minute mark. So Tara Jackson's 34:22 world record is on notice at this point. We'll see what the time looks like when Meg finishes this run and comes into the burpees.
And Megan just putting another, if she gets the world record best time, just another thing to add to her accolades and how impressive of an athlete she is. But again, and I know she knows it, wins and championships are what matters, right? You can have the fastest time in the world, all the stats in the world, but if you don't have those championships at the end of the day, you couldn't really consider yourself the GOAT, right? And I know she wants it. And granted, this is early in her racing career, but she's here, and she's going to be here for a long time as well, too. She's the face of the sport.
Yeah, and Meg's talked about being, you know, a little bit disappointed and motivated after that second place High Rocks World Championship because she sets high expectations for herself. And, you know, you mentioned she put out that world record time, but Lauren Weeks was a little bit better on the day at World Championships. So this is definitely, though, a statement that Meg Jacoby is making today, as she has done this pretty much solo, opening a gap again, maybe on that second run and being comfortably in first place since then, as she's now coming around in that inset screen for the second time and should be making her way into the burpees here momentarily.
Yeah, she looks like she's moving. She's making this a fast split, knowing that she has it. In fact, I think she can even taste the what's the world record? I apologize. What's the world record?
32:44 is the time that Tara Jackson put out last year, and that's the only female athlete to go under 33.
Okay, well, she's in the yeah, she could get it today. Man, I didn't even think that we could see a world record today. Oh, this is nuts. And she's moving, too.
Let's go, world record right in front of you.
This is easily going to be the top time of the year. That was 33:49. Megan Jacoby's got 50 seconds or so to finish up these last 10 burpees with the world record in reach.
Wow. I didn't even think about that today whatsoever. This is nuts.
She's the DEKA mile world record holder. Her first DEKA Fit experience for Megan Jacoby. She's led ever since the second station. Vivian Tafuto in second place. But Megan Jacoby's got the world record in sight as she's finishing up these last few burpees.
Wow. Mamba mentality, Jacoby! World record. Wow. By like 20
there it is.
seconds.
Megan
That is
Jacoby
nuts.
walks across the finish line, coming in under 32:30, breaking the world record by more than 20 seconds, and putting herself
Shattering it.
right at the top of the list for contenders here in DEKA FIT World Championship season.
Wow. Impressive performance, man. Wow, that's crazy. She shattered it.
Now our attention turns to Vivian Tafuto, who's got a good chance at the second fastest time in the world this year. That's 33:49. Lauren Weeks coming in with the fastest time before today's race. So Vivian, whose PR is 33:55, has a good chance of breaking that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, having that Megan Jacoby push definitely helped her there. Wow, about a good 35-second PR. That's impressive.
A huge effort for Vivian Tafuto, running mostly solo in second place with, again, Meg serving as that carrot in front of her. And now it's the battle for third. Chris Rogloski has had a bit of an edge here in the second half of this race. Alondra Greenlee, though, off screen right now, also on her burpees. These are two competitors who were in the top 10 at DEKA FIT World Championships last year. We expect them to be in the mix this year. They're going toe-to-toe for the first time here in DEKA FIT. And Chris has a chance at a podium position with Alondra comfortably in fourth, trying to push her way into the top three.
This is going to be an exciting finish. I think Chris has about 4 or 5 burpee lead, but I haven't been seeing the pace. Oh, and there we go. Third place, Chris. Great job. Well done.
And Chris with almost exactly the time that Michaela Norman put down earlier this year. That was a 34:07. That was third of the world coming in. So Chris is going to be right around that top 5 as Alondra finishes up.
Oh, look at Carly. Wow. Look at Carly making this room right now. And Alondra taking fourth. What was that time again for, you said 37:14?
37:25 is top 20. So all the athletes in burpees right now are going to be well under that. And we I don't think we got a split on the bike just because she wasn't in the top few at that point. Hopefully we can go back and see what Carly Wopat put down on that bike, because she has done a great job of running her race, hanging in there, working her way up, sustaining the effort. And, all of these athletes on burpees right now, all have a great chance of being in the top 20. And there it is, 127 on the bike. So you compare that to kind of the other athletes around her in the field. That's helped Carly Wopat move her way up. And, it's about position. It's also about time. She's going to be well under that 37:25. And even though some other athletes come in, she still has a good chance of being in the top 20 here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think these women, you got Lori in the background, then you got Bethany and Michelle Navarro, who just came through, Carly, who just finished. All these women are solidifying their times right now into the World Championships. Like I called it, every single one of them was going to go sub 37, but they're not just going sub 37, they're killing it. I mean, they're just now coming up on 36 minutes. And it's going to be a low 36 for everybody. Even Janelle over there as well, too. Very well, is on pace for a PR. I think she got 37 on the last race that she did in North Carolina. So this is a great outing for all women today.
Yeah, before today, Alex Walker was in 8th place at 35:48. And your top 7 here in today's race all went under that time. And Lori Winkleman just above it at 35:50, I believe. So all of these athletes, Bethany McChesney as well, all of them well in the top 20. Bethany improved her time by close to a minute. She came in at 19th at 37:17, and she runs a 36:26. We see Michelle Navarro and some other athletes finishing up. They have a decent chance of at least having a time faster than top 20 before today. They may not necessarily be in the top 20 because of all these other new athletes, but we got what we expected. An absolutely exciting race. on both sides, the men and women, fast times across the board. We got a world record on the women's side and a statement made by Vivian Tafuto as well with a 35-second PR. Just an absolutely phenomenal morning of racing here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, this was exciting, man. By far the best race on both the men's and the women's field that we got to commentate as well. Man, this is nuts, and it only sets the bar for Orlando, right? What does Orlando have to offer? How are we going to top this? We know some big names are going to be coming out in Orlando because given it the last race of the series. Maybe Rich Ryan makes an appearance again just because he's not pleased with his time, right? Maybe Ryan Kent makes an appearance. We got Megan Jacoby. Maybe she'll just be like, you know what, a world record might be okay, but let me do one more race to gear me towards it. And Lauren Weeks might just make that appearance as well. We don't know, right? So but the bar is set very high right now.
32-27. So
you hear it there from Yancey.
Dylan, fifth guy to ever break 30 for the men.
That's awesome.
Meg Jacoby just broke Tara Jackson's 32-44 record with a 32-27, which means Vivian was flying also. Probably 30 seconds behind her.
That lived up to the hype.
That's true. Now that Tara's world record is broken, she very well just might make an appearance in Orlando and try to make that statement and getting it back. So, and this is just gearing it all to one of probably the best races of all time at the DEKA World Championships. Every single name that's going to be competing at DEKA World Championships is going to be a name we can argue of being top 3 on the podium for sure.
Yeah, how about this women's field? We talked about the top 4. Stephanie Hillman and Annie Schiller kind of in their own race in that 5th and 6th spot. They both put in times that are comfortably in the top 20. And then some other athletes again behind them. Yeah, we talked about these two being championship caliber fields here today on both the men's and women's sides. And it just makes you even more excited for Orlando. And then, of course, the big weekend in Dallas in December, because we should see just about all of these athletes, at least those who, were in the top 10 of these races. They'll all probably be in the top 20 and could potentially be competing in Dallas. And then you're going to have 4, 5, 6 other competitors who weren't necessarily out there today. You mentioned on the women's side, Lauren Weeks and Tara Jackson. On the men's side, we expect to see Ryan Kent, Rylan Shadig, some others as well. So with how deep these fields were today, that's only going to ramp it up even more as we come to the end of this season.
Yeah, it was just a preview of greatness right here, right? So this is what's awesome is that they compete the first time. They kind of get a feel for it, right, in this arena. And then next time they compete, they know where they're probably going to hang on a little bit longer, where they're going to push it a little bit faster. I'm calling it now. At the World Championships, I don't know Orlando because I just don't know who's competing. But at the World Championships, both men and the women, world record's going to be broken again. 100%. I mean, they're going to be pushing at that type of level where it's almost at the point now where you have to go world record pace to win a race.
Yeah, with this being, Megan Jacoby's first DEKA Fit, I'm sure, it's hard to believe. I'm sure there are things in her race that she knows in her head that didn't go perfectly, that she can improve on and build on heading into next year. And she probably knows that she's going to have even more athletes that can run with her, whether it's Lauren Weeks, Tara Jackson. Vivian puts in some more work as we get a look here at the new world record holder, Meg Jacoby, and Vivian Tafuto right next to her.
There you go. Oh, God.
Looks like we're about to hear from Meg, but may have lost the camera. We'll see if we can get that back here momentarily.
They want you to talk to Meg. Well, mine? We can use mine.
bike so that I can utilize the next run. For some people, they might do it the opposite way and then suffer on the run, so I know that that's where I can try and gain back any ground that I lose on the bike.
Was the record in your mind as you were running, or is that
It's
just
hard
something
not
that
to
happened?
have it in your mind, especially when every Instagram account and live stream the day before is saying, oh, Meg has a shot at it. So it's obviously in my mind. But I try not to put pressure on myself. This is my first race, so I try to give myself a little bit of grace. There's always a lot to learn every time you do a race. So, but it went in my favor today. So.
Do you think you just upped the motivation for Tara Jackson now?
I'm sure I did. And she's my girl. And if I didn't, I would be offended. So
One more
she is
question.
a force to be reckoned with either way.
One more question. Later on today, I believe you're running double for Preshow.
Yes, I
Is
am.
the record fall?
I hope so.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
I can't wait to see you run later.
So you heard there from Meg Jacoby. She will be in Orlando in a couple weeks, so
Oh,
we'll
man.
see who else is there
Oh,
with her.
man.
But she talked about having some things that didn't go right, and that's a scary thought for the rest of this field. Luke, as we get ready to wrap this up, I mean, what a day! We talked about
Absolutely.
it coming in. We got what we expected, and this is just setting the table for an outstanding finish of the season here in these next several weeks.
Yeah, the fact that she said that now she's going to be coming out to Orlando, I have a feeling the call out with Tara and Lauren has begun. I want to see the names out there. I want to see them perform. And like you mentioned, Megan saying that she didn't probably run the best of her race and she made a couple of mistakes. That is very terrifying. So the sky's the limit with them.
So I think we're going to get the results from today pulled up here momentarily. Here's the men's elite top 10 again. Dylan Scott becomes the fifth guy, the fifth guy to go sub 30. Nick Riker puts a couple seconds onto his PR. David Magida ran a smart, patient race, solidly establishing that time. Solid debut for Isaac Sanderson and Jarrett Newby as well. Rich Ryan, maybe didn't have the day he was hoping for, but should have a qualifying time with that 31-13. We'll see if we see him in Orlando next week. But yeah, an outstanding performance led by Dylan Scott here.
Absolutely. Dylan Scott wanted some respect on that name, and he definitely got it today. So, Dylan, I apologize for not putting you on the podium spot, but, man, you definitely solidified that. I'm definitely not betting against you on the next race for sure.
And Joseph Cotto ran a solid race as well with that 31-17. Mark Polzin, a 21-second PR. He's a guy coming in, as a master, 40-plus. He should be in the field for the World Championship, and excited to see what he can do as well.
And holding it down for the older gentleman. He's awesome. Definitely an inspiration getting up there. Man, Joseph's 5K split so much, I shouldn't say so much, but faster than the other men. If he can really work on his station time, Joseph is going to be a force to be reckoned with as well.
And Joseph is one of the few men, in this field that we've seen a lot, kind of on the OCR scene this year. A lot of the men have been specializing more in this hybrid stuff, but Joseph's been thrown down in savage races all throughout the course of the year. And you see, I think that maybe is where the running background comes in and that ability. But I'm excited to see what Dylan Scott can do, with this in his back pocket, because he was definitely on a mission today to let everyone know that he's here to battle. We haven't seen much from him. I know he's a relatively new dad, and you can definitely relate to that, Luke. Dylan, we haven't seen him competing that much since High Rocks Worlds, but he is on a mission to throw down, and I'm excited to see him stick his nose in it when not only Rich Ryan and David Magida, but potentially Rylan Shattuck, Ryan Kent are in the field as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. He put his foot down today. He put his name out there. Everyone, he's saying, don't forget about me. I'm still one of the best hybrid athletes in the world. And he definitely proved that today.
And how about Nick Riker backing up his, top 5 time coming in? I think it was a 30-32. He runs 30-29. Someone similar to Vivian Tafuto, where he wasn't necessarily battling for the win because Dylan and Meg respectively kind of took those races out, toward the midway point. But Nick just stayed on it and established that second place position. And, he's running very smart races this year, staying within himself. And I'm sure that, he'll be ready to really kick it up another notch if he needs to during World Championships, but someone who came in today and executed for sure.
Absolutely. I'm proud of Nick. He did awesome. He ran his race and he got rewarded for it, getting a big second place. And also too, Rich Ryan, I'm sure it's not the race that he wanted, maybe not to time, maybe not the placement, of course. So expect a bounce back from him as well. And I think I heard from Megan Jacoby, they're teaming up today for teams. So I think he's going to get a world record today. So I think he'll be okay with that after today.
Yeah, the 31:17, again, not the time that Rich necessarily wanted coming into today, but that would be the 7th fastest time coming into today. So it's still probably right at the edge of that top 10, even though, you've got Dylan and David coming in with times above him. So Rich, you'd expect to be in the top 20. We'll see if we see him in Orlando. I know he's got some other plans as well, before DEKA championship season, as High Rocks kicks back into gear. But excited to see what the DEKA World Champ from last year can do when he gets another shot in Dallas. And then, on the women's side, we should have those results here in a moment. But here it is. What more can you say about the performance of Megan Jacoby? 32:27, a DEKA Fit world record, taking 17 seconds off the mark from Tara Jackson. Here's what's interesting to me. You were talking about the 5K splits of the men. Meg is someone whose running is her strength, but the output she had on the stations, because you look at that 5K difference, only 9 seconds faster than Vivian Tafuto and Chris Rogowski right there at sub 20 as well. So I think, Megan just measuring her effort and making sure that she had enough in the tank for all the stations. And it turns out that, whether it was the bike, the tank push, I don't know if it was one station in particular, but the accumulation of effort over time where she really just made the difference. And that's a scary thought, I think, for the rest of these women. If she can run a 32:27 with a 5K time that isn't, above and beyond the rest of the field, because she's probably got a lot more room to improve on that run execution within DEKA Fit. So I'm excited to see what she can do in Orlando in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's clear. It's very obviously it was a very sustainable effort throughout, right? Her 5K and her station times pretty evenly out. And of course, she won it based off the stations clearly, as you can see. So that is very scary, knowing that she can run much faster than that in a typical 5K. Of course, a compromised 5K is way different than a typical 5K. But the fact that she could probably switch to another gear on her running is very scary for the rest of the field, for the women. But it's also a little promising for the other women as well too, right? They're saying, okay, well, maybe if I can keep up with Megan Jacoby on the 5K and just work on my station times to get just a little bit faster, then maybe I have a shot at actually beating and being right there on the podium come December.
And an impressive effort from Vivian Tafuto, who took 30-plus seconds off of her PR, second fastest run, second fastest time of the day. Of course, you see there, she's right around that top 5 position. I think her time in a vacuum where Megan Jacoby didn't exist, it would be the fastest time in the world so far this year. Lauren Weeks was just under 34 coming in. And then Chris and Alondra battling back and forth, 3rd and 4th place. We saw the running, I think, make the difference for Chris Rogowski there at the very end of the race, when she kind of put a 5-second gap that became 10, became 15, eventually 21. But as you go down the list, every time you see on the screen here is about a minute faster than the 20th place time was coming in. So Bethany McChesney, even though down there in 10th place at 36:26, and we saw 9th place just changed as the round 2 or heat 2 results come in. I think that speaks to what we were talking about earlier, where there were some athletes, because of the competitiveness of today's event, some athletes in that second heat that can put it in solid times. Julia Ashley, don't know too much about her. Obviously, we didn't see her on screen during the fast heat, but she comes in with the 9th fastest time. She should be in the top 20 as well. So it just speaks to the depth of field here. And then, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Carly Wopat coming in. Her, DEKA Fit debut, someone we've seen on the DEKA Strong side. We know the pedigree of the machines, but she did a great job of hanging in there, running her race, and coming away with a solid time, 90 seconds faster than that 20th place cutoff was coming into today.
Yeah, it seems apparent with Carly and Megan Jacoby's their 5K compared to their overall time. So that means their station time and transition time. It looks like she has the second fastest when it came to the stations in transition, just right behind Jacoby. So, I mean, if she can really work on that 5K, which she has plenty of time to work on that conditioning. I know she has a great coach as well. So it's only a matter of time until she works on that. And when she works on that, that's going to be scary as well, too, for the rest of the field. So impressive first race.
All right, now we're going to take a look at the rest of the year schedule for DEKA Fit and the OCR Reports broadcast. Again, September 16th, DEKA Fit Orlando. That is the last day to qualify in the DEKA Fit event. If you're watching at home, looking to try your hand at mile and strong, you've got another week to qualify for championships. And then we've got all kinds of action across the board in OCR. Of course, OCR World Championships in early October out in Mammoth. That's going to be exciting. Savage Series continuing with races in Dallas and then Florida. We've got the conclusion of the Spartan North American Elite Series and then World's Toughest Mudder. So really, you've got everything from 3K to 100+ miles here on the docket for OCR, for the OCR Report. What's been a great season of just varied obstacle racing and hybrid action. And then of course, DEKA FIT World Championships, the culmination of what we've been watching here today. December 1st through 3rd. So they've extended that to an extra day to get the 3 events on 3 different days, which should really allow these athletes, some of whom are going to be competing in multiple events, to come out and really deliver peak performances. And I'm excited for that for sure.
It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be the best race ever. So get ready for it. Everybody give some love to OCR Report. Like, comment, subscribe. Go on their Instagram, go on their Facebook. Give some love towards Jack Bauer as well, too. Phenomenal on all his reporting and the skills that and of course, he saves the planet every time as well, too, in the show. If you've been watching, give some love to my man, Jason Dupree, as well. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, again, you mentioned Jack Bauer, coming up with the stats, both for our broadcast prep to help with that we saw on the screen, during the athlete call-outs. Just a great job from him to help us get prepared. And, of course, our Rabbits, Dave, Rye, and others as well. They're in Philadelphia on site. And, of course, Jason Dupree, the man behind the scenes in our ears, making sure everything looks and sounds great and pulling those
wizard
graphics
behind
up
the curtain
as well. So, again, this live race coverage of the 2023 DEKA Series has been a presentation of DEKA and the OCR Report. Thank you for watching, and a special shout-out to Yancey Culp and the team at DEKA. You can find race results for today's race at the OCR Report Instagram at the OCR Report. Be sure to subscribe to the OCR Report YouTube channel. You can support live streams like this one for less than $5 a month by becoming a member of the OCR Report through Patreon. Sign up today and support the sport we love. For Luke Halterman and our crew of Rabbits, I am Xander Keene. Thank you for watching, and will you see you on September 16th for DEKA Fit Orlando here on the OCR Report.